after senators like yourself are calling for more transparency?
Well, if it's contained in the confidentiality disclosure agreement and we are bound, then they should not disclose, but they should not be giving also different prices. Like, for example, last November of last year, DOH submitted the price of 3,629 pesos and 25 centavos to the Committee on Finance headed by Senator Angara. So that price, that amount came from the DOH. And when we asked the resource person, Secretary Duque, they seemed to be groping. They were not forthright. They were not straightforward in their answer. So senators, just like netizens, started researching on prices of vaccines, including Sinovac. And, you know, all these reports, news reports are coming out. For example, last October 14, Indonesia disclosed that they bought the vaccine or Sinovac vaccine for 683 pesos equivalent. And then here comes the Bangkok Post indicating that the price of Sinovac per vaccine is $5, which is equivalent to what, 240 pesos. So it aroused apprehension, suspicion, if you may, if doon sa mga senador at sa mga netizens. So there goes our problem. And now, Secretary Galvez is declaring that there is an indicative price of something like 700 pesos. If they can declare, or at the outset, during our first hearing last Monday of last week, he already declared that we can get Sinovac vaccines for 700 pesos thereabouts, then that's the end of the story. Nobody will investigate further about the price, or nobody will take interest in looking into the Sinovac vaccine.
Now, is the Senate still requiring Secretary Galvez to disclose details of the Sinovac deal, at least in an executive session?
We had a Viber chat group discussion, the three of us, Senator De La Rosa, myself, and Secretary Galvez, last Sunday. And the long and short of it is that Secretary Galvez agreed to disclose the price or prices of the vaccines, at least 7 of them, in an executive session, but under certain conditions. And I told him I will have to take it up with the Senate President and my colleagues, because the Senate is a deliberative body. And Senator De La Rosa, I think, was the one who suggested that. What if we hold an executive session? Are you willing to disclose? And he responded in that manner. So I took it up with the Senate President during my privileged speech yesterday, and he was agreeable. After all, there was a motion from the Majority Leader, Mig Subiri, to hold an executive session. But it was Senator Franklin Drilon, being a lawyer, who said that there's no need for an executive session because, after all, the Constitution is very clear. And at the same time, in an executive session, the senators cannot really divulge the what transpired during the executive session, because the penalty for this, Karen, is expulsion. So we're bound by our Senate rules. But I'm willing, I myself, personally, I told them I'm willing to sign whatever there is to sign. If we want to be bound or covered by the CDA, then I'm willing to sign it. Only for the in the spirit of transparency.
Okay. Now, what's quite interesting is the basis for technically the issues with pricing comes from the DOH. And Secretary Galvez said that, of course, early on, these are commercial prices. And the Bangkok Post even made a mistake. That was not the price of Sinovac. He said that's the price, the commercial price of Sinopharm, which is a more expensive Chinese vaccine compared to Sinovac. But regardless, has Secretary Galvez or anyone from government actually explained how much is the country buying, for example, not just Sinovac, but AstraZeneca or Moderna or Pfizer, not because it's a not-for-profit right now. Tama, Senator, no? So it's
Tama.
special deals crafted by each government. I mean, do you even know how much we're getting Pfizer, for example? How much are they selling Moderna to the Philippine government? Do we have that?
Well, yes. Moderna, that's $26 according to Senator Villar because he reserved for 100,000 doses, I think. And then when Senate
dose,
President
per
Soto
dose
asked
yun?
Joey Concepcion
Per
of
dose.
negosyo,
Per dose, sir, yung 26 or 2?
yeah, 26, yun yung Moderna. Because I think
Per dose. Per dose?
per dose, yes.
Per dose, okay.
Yes. And then when Senate President Soto asked Joey Concepcion during last Friday's hearing, how much are they buying AstraZeneca outright, Joey Concepcion responded $5.
Okay.
So that's the contrast because, and after that, when Senator or Senate President Soto asked Secretary Galvez about the prices of the other vaccines, specifically Sinovac, the reply was, we're bound by the confidentiality disclosure agreement. So,
The China
Karen,
situation is unique. Kumbaga, sila lang ang humihingi ng ganon. Yun ba yun?
that's just one issue, Karen. When he was asked if it is a strictly G2G, government-to-government transaction, he said yes. And that's the guidance given by the President. But then when Senator Dillon asked him, who is he dealing with as far as Sinovac is concerned, he replied that it was Miss Helen Yang,
Yes.
who is an executive of the Sinovac, because Sinovac is a private firm,
Yeah.
unlike Sinopharm, which is wholly owned by the government. So yun ang nagiging problema, Karen. And there are other issues because, you know, when the WHO representative to the Philippines disclosed that we're entitled for free, 44 million doses ang allocation sa Pilipinas for free. And yet, that was the first time that we heard that we are, you know, we are receiving for free 44 million doses.
The
And I was
COVAX
observing
facility.
them.
Yeah.
Yes, through the
Yes.
COVAX facility. And I was observing them, Secretary Duque, Secretary Galvez. There could have been, you know, some a glow in their eyes, or I could have seen some pleasant surprise in their faces, but I didn't see that. It's as if they knew about it already, but why did they not disclose that? Because, you know, if we count, and we started counting, because 44 million doses for free, 17 million doses from the private sector, of course, that's only equivalent to 8.5 on a 50-50 agreement and a sharing scheme. And then there's another 14 million that will be shouldered by the local government units. So right away, that's 44 million plus 8.5 million plus 14 million. And the target of the vaccination program is 70 million, according to them. That's the universe. So they should have deducted so many recipients of the vaccination program from that amount, from that figures, figure 70, which is 70 million. Pero hindi rin nadidisclose yun. So that's the reason why we keep asking questions.
Yeah. So technically speaking, when you think about it, you don't need 82 billion technically for the government to purchase vaccines anymore.
Yes, that's 82.5.
Yeah.
And 2.5 billion is for logistical requirements. 70 billion actually is appropriated under the so-called unprogrammed fund.
Yeah.
Unprogrammed is only because there's no money available yet. And that's the reason why DOF is busy transacting loans with ADB, World Bank, and so forth and so on. So we will not be needing 70 billion to purchase vaccines because meron na mga libre. And when we computed, parang ang i-address na lamang nasa mga 36 million Filipinos. And
now,
if we compute that with the amount, the figure as estimated by the DOF for purposes of transacting loans, 1,200 per vaccine yung kanila. On the average,
Yeah.
So, hindi na aabot siya ng 70 billion.
Okay.
Parang nasa mga 39, nasa mga 39 or 40 billion na lang.
Okay. Another issue is the president last night said is senators have a preference for Pfizer, and considering what happened in Norway, doesn't the president have a point?
Yes.
I'm saying, is there a bias against the Chinese vaccine when the president pointed out, wala namang namatay, right? Yung Pfizer, he points it out. In Norway, I think he mentioned 29.
Karen, I haven't heard any senator that has expressed preference sa Pfizer,
Okay.
much less any vaccine for that matter. Na-focus lang yung attention sa Sinovac because of the controversies. Kasi mas maraming nag-research about Sinovac because yun din sa kanila na nanggaling yung controversy eh. If they had been more forthright and honest in their answers, in their responses, in our first hearing, hindi mapopokus sa Sinovac. I'm telling you that, Karen.
Yeah.
No, nag-react lang kami eh.
Oo. Oo. Now, the bigger issue for many Filipinos is the fact that other ASEAN countries are already vaccinating. They're inoculating. And eto pa ang Pilipinas, we're still discussing on the price and the purchase of vaccines.
Yes, but as early as May or June last year, there were already offers made by Pfizer, by Sinopharm. Meron na mga offers eh.
Yeah.
Ang tanong nga, di ba, lumabas yung issue, who dropped the ball? Because if as early as May, just a case in point, yung effort ni na Secretary Lacson, Ambassador Romualdez, that was a top-level negotiation done with Secretary Mike Pompeo. And the U.S. government committed to deliver Pfizer vaccines to the Philippines. But, it took 118 days for Secretary Duque to even sign a confidentiality disclosure agreement. That's 4 months. So, can we blame the other ASEAN countries or the other countries manufacturing vaccines if the Philippines has not yet received any delivery? We can only ourselves to blame.
Okay. Now, in the next hearing, Senator Lacson, what are you expecting? What would you
really
want to
don't
be
know.
clarified? Yeah.
Well, the issues that left unresolved, unresponded, should be resolved. Because walang closure eh. Yung mga tanong namin, laging paiwas yung sagot. And we'd like to find out, hindi naman kami nanghihingi talaga ng eksaktong amount, eksaktong presyo. Kung kaya rin palang i-divulge in public ni Secretary Galvez, sinabi niya na hindi naman naabot. Malapit lang tayo sa Indonesia, between Indonesia and India. Kung sinabi nga sa amin yan nung una pa lang pagdinig, wala
Tapos
na sigurong ganitong maraming usapan. Yes. Sinabi niya kung, around 700.
Yeah.
Sabi niya, yung sinabi namin
That's
yung...
$13. $13 or $14.
Yes. Compared naman do sa 3,629 that they themselves submitted to the Committee on Finance. Now, if they just told us that the 3,600 was just an indicative price and premature, edi okay na rin. Pero they were denying. Sinabi pa fake news. Di ba sabi ni Secretary Roque, yung 3,600, that's fake news. That's why I asked in my privilege speech, is Secretary Roque and even Secretary Galvez, are they accusing Secretary Duque of being the peddler of fake news? Because that came from Secretary Duque, yung sinasabing fake news, 3,600.
Yeah. But then, I'm just thinking of, because I interviewed Secretary Galvez this morning, and all the figures are coming essentially from the DOH office. But then, weren't those figures, just to balance the conversation, frankly, they were all estimates and commercial prices then. Because those were early figures given to the office of Senator Angara also.
Yes, those are official records of the Committee on Finance.
So it should have been corrected.
Yeah, they should have indicated, hindi po mga commercial prices po yan, hindi po yan talagang presyo. Ngayon lang nila sinasabi, those are indicative prices. Tapos na yung 2 hearings.
Yeah.
Pwede naman palang sabihin yung more or less ganitong figure. Dapat sinabi nila sa amin yun. Di tapos sana yung wala sanang maraming apprehension.
Now, one of your tweets was quite controversial. And Secretary Galvez said that even before the Senate hearings, because your tweet said, in effect, if government was able to bring down the price to $6.50, the Senate did its job. Taking part in saving billions of pesos, and netizens can pat themselves on the back. Yesterday, Secretary Galvez said even before the Senate hearings, prices were already set to 650 to 700 pesos. He said that yesterday. And in the cabinet meeting yesterday, you may want to react to this. Clearly, this must be referring to a soundbite that you said. Sabi ni Secretary Galvez is, we don't hold cash. Hindi dumadaan ang pera sa amin. And no less than President Duterte said, the vaccine deals are not final until reviewed by the Finance Secretary. I don't know why you're so occupied in finding corruption here. So,
well, that's comforting to know, to hear it from them, from the President, no less. And we're not saying that there's corruption, but at the very least, in the realm of possibilities, there could have been an attempt at overpricing. Kasi yun ang datos na dumating sa amin between $3,600 and $5, which is equivalent to 250 or even 700 pesos. Malaki yung diferensya So we're not, di ba sinabi ko rin sa privilege speech ko, I'm not prepared to accuse anyone in particular of corruption. But at least, it defies logic not to suspect that there's an attempt at overpricing. Because they provided the figures that are so high compared to how much the other countries bought their vaccines. The same brand, Sinovac. Doon nakafocus kasi Sinovac. Kasi other countries, 683 sa Indonesia. Sinasabi $5 sa Thailand. And then he quoted, I think in your program yesterday, he quoted a Thailand mayor, yung Nakhon Yala. Na municipality na nagsasabi na magpa-purchase ng 70,000 for 70,000 residents and they're ready to spend 100 million baht. When we pulled out the article, the mayor of the town in Thailand was not even referring to any particular vaccine, much less Sinovac. But Secretary Galvez was quick to conclude that, hey, look, if we compute 70,000 against 100 million, easily that's $23 plus. Why would you embellish a public document such as a newspaper report? So lalo magkakaroon ng duda, para bang you're overly defending a particular brand. Yun din napansin ng mga senador kasi yun nga, di ba, the sequence of events that transpired even during our last or our first public hearing na parang in a seemingly coordinated communication strategy while they were appearing in the Senate and talking about the price or the delivery of Sinovac, nandiyan na si Secretary Roque declaring to all and sundry that, hey, we're the Sinovac vaccine 50,000 and then 950,000 and then 1 million, another 2 million. So Filipinos,
that's
you
Secretary
get ready to
Galvez,
be inoculated. That Secretary Roque, after Secretary Galvez testified last Monday about the Sinovac vaccine being to be delivered starting February 20. Andiyan at Secretary Roque, and sinasabi na wala kayong pagpipilian kundi Sinovac. So lalong nagkakaroon ng apprehension in the minds of our people.
Okay. Now, could it be, I'm just playing being balanced in this, Senator. Could it be that it's because, frankly speaking, I've interviewed kasi Secretary Galvez on this, I think 3 times. And the problem is, we can only, government, when I say we, I mean the Philippine government, can only access Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna right now through the COVAX facility. And that's through the WHO. But in terms of, for example, right now Pfizer has delayed deliveries with the EU. 1/3 of the EU countries are complaining and they've already paid. So could it be that it's because the Philippine government, the only available vaccine right now that the Philippine government can actually secure and buy is really Sinovac? Because we might get Pfizer, but that's through the COVAX facility. So it has to be that we pass that application, right? From January 18 to 29, something like that. And I know already of some businessmen that have Moderna already as we speak and are offering it at $26. But
Yes.
that's the private sector again. So could it be that the problem is the fact that the Philippine government cannot access huge volumes right now for free for the rest of the Filipino people? Could it be that that's it, Senator?
Yeah, that could be a possibility because we don't know the ins and outs of the negotiations ongoing in negotiations with the different governments because this is a government-to-government transaction on a no-profit basis.
Yes.
That's what they said. And another issue, Karen, Secretary Galvez, when he testified last Monday, he was telling us that malaki yung madi-discount pagka through COVAX facility ang gagamitin. Like AstraZeneca, Moderna, and so forth, Johnson & Johnson.
But that's free.
And then, libre pala. Ano yung sinasabi niya na we could purchase at very, very low prices. So, hindi niya alam ba at that time, last Monday, last week, na libre pala through COVAX facility. And it was only the WHO representative when he declared that. Hindi naman sila nagulat. Parang alam din naman nila. So these are the small and big things that arouse suspicion. Yun ang sinasabi natin. So it's their own doing. It's not the Senate, it's not the senators. And we're performing our job, oversight. We did it in customs, we did it in PhilHealth, we did it in Bucor. May mga nangyayari naman, Karen, di ba? Pag nag-iimbestiga kami in aid of legislation. And we are we're willing partners with the executive branch. Pag may kailangan sila, Bayanihan 1, Bayanihan 2, extension, binibigyan naman namin kaagad. Nag-special session kami, inaabot kami ng alas 12. Isn't that enough cooperation that we are extending to the executive branch? But, in return, we need to be informed also what happened to the appropriations that we gave you. Meaning Congress, not particularly, not the Senate in particular, but the Congress.
And for the record, the vaccine purchase is still, in the end, the Commission on Audit will still go through it, correct? It's not spared from that.
Yeah. We discussed that during the interpellation. When I was interpellated by Senator Drilon, well, there's the term sheet. According to Senator Dillon, that's already a public document. Okay, fine. If you don't want to divulge, but the question is, up to what point could they hold on or not disclose the prices of the vaccines? When it becomes public, once they sign the public or the supply purchase agreement and delivery shall have been made or deliveries shall have been made, and then COA would now come in, we will know the price or prices.
Okay. All right.
Tanong doon, and we would like to ask them that. Up to what point can you invoke or would the CDA be in effect? No?
Okay.
Kasi pag kami supply contract, pag bumili tayo, public monies ang gagamitin. Kailangan malaman natin kasi nasa Constitution nga na yung information should be given to our people, especially when public funds are involved.
Okay, so finished first with the vaccine, two bigger issues before we go. Charter change, for example. Charter change, would you support that, amending specific portions of the Constitution that would help the economy? They mentioned 7 areas. Would you vote for that?
Absolutely, yes. But we have to resolve first, how do we vote? Because if 3/4 of the members of Congress will vote and it is not resolved yet or settled yet, if we are voting separately or jointly, then where would that put the Senate or the senators? We're only 24. And 3/4 of 300 congressmen would be sufficient to, just outvote and disregard the senators. So that has to be resolved first because that's also an unresolved issue.
But then you do believe that it's already time to amend the charter. I mean, the bigger issue of it, you believe that? Some of your colleagues feel you don't have to. But go on.
Yeah, particularly the economic provisions because, the 1987 Constitution is too nationalistic to a fault because coming from the dictatorship, or the regime of ex-President Marcos, talagang puro naging masyadong nationalistic. Hindi tayo nag-open up. And now the world has become very, very small that we need to open up. And as long as we remain very restrictive, land ownership and so forth and so on, the 40-60, if we don't lift that, talaga maiwanan tayo. But then, kailangan i-resolve muna natin yung mga issues that have to be resolved first.
Okay. Now, a big story today is the president terminating an old agreement that essentially bars military forces from entering UP campuses without permission. You have UP already up in arms already at this point, even on social media. But Defense Secretary Lorenzana says this is a move to protect students because of what he calls recruitment activities of the Communist Party of the Philippines done in the University of the Philippines. Where do you stand on this, Senator?
First, on the legality, Karen, I haven't seen the contents or the provisions of the agreement, whether it could be terminated unilaterally or by one party alone. Second, there's sense in the proposal or the move taken by the President and Secretary Lorenzana, because during our red tagging hearings in the Senate, it was established that not only UP in particular, other universities, talagang yung recruitment nanggagaling doon sa mga estudyante up to the point that they're being killed in encounters. Their parents were looking for them, and then sila yung masyadong na-radicalize to join the NPA. To join the militant organizations, that's fine, because you can protest all you want. But when you bear arms against the government, and you're very young, you're vulnerable, and you're easily radicalized, and the hotbed of recruitment would be UP, PUP, and other universities, then I think the security sector has studied all the factors involved before they acted on the matter. But I am not privy, or I do not know the contents of the agreement, whether it's legal for the government to unilaterally terminate an agreement.
But then having the military inside the campuses, do you believe that this will affect the quality, the state, the mental makeup of education in UP?
Definitely. It will affect the culture.
The culture, yeah.
Yes, because, UP is known to be independent, and they're involved in so many political issues. They enjoy so much freedom, and then all of a sudden you'll take it away from them. That really hurts, And definitely there will be outcry, there will be protests, and there will be disagreements. So let's see how it shapes up in the future.
Okay, but what do you believe is the balance? Because you did support, when I interviewed you, you did support that regarding the 16 billion for the anti-insurgency fund that would go to barangays. You did support that, and that was such a controversial aspect in the budget. You believe in putting more funding to security, and this one, you being also the advocate, the author, sponsor of the anti-terror law. So do you believe this one, essentially, it's an overstep of boundaries with academic freedom? Or wala pa doon?
Yes, that's it, the academic freedom. We don't know how they will implement, once terminated, how they will implement the termination, or how deep would they infiltrate the UP campus, or campuses, all over the country. We don't know that yet. But if it's designed to really muscle the academic freedom being enjoyed, and other freedoms being enjoyed by UP in general, then you could describe it as that, overstepping.
Right now, would you say this is an overstepping move already?
Because we don't know the conditionalities. Once terminated, ano ba yung gagawin ng mga security sector? We don't know that yet. Ano? Probably they could come to an agreement na meron din mga boundaries to be observed.
All right. On that note, Senator Panfilo Lacson, thank you so much for your time this morning, sir. You stay strong and you stay safe.
Thank you, Karen.
All right, we're going to take